The woman speaking to you right now is a woman that went through the same thing, maybe on a lesser level, maybe on a higher level, I don't know. But I've also gone through my own share of domestic violence. I got to the point whereby I said, enough is enough. So you have to take ownership of a situation that you're in. Anything you tolerate remains.
Hi guys, my name is Vicky Sio. I'm here at House of Utterance and I'm here today with Madam Merola. She's a bank theory creator and she's here to just tell her story and she's going to blow our minds. She's always on fire. I can't wait for you to watch this episode, and it's such an honor to have you, Ma. Thank you for being on the show with us today.
Yes, hello everyone. Hi, my name is Madame Merola, the bank creator that ignites the beautiful and bold, audacious, no excuses, God's masterpiece in you. It's a privilege and an honor to be here with you.
It's really a privilege to have you, Ma. Really, because I'm just looking at you in awe. You're always looking so beautiful.
Thank you.
There's no time I've seen you that you are not on point. Every time I see you, you're always on point. I'm like, don't she wake up from her sleep looking like this all the time? Not for 1 second, whether it's in the evening, afternoon, even when in your house, you're just on point. So it's good to have
Thank
you
you.
here.
It takes
Thank you.
intentionality.
Amazing.
to be able to maintain a certain way about your image, but you know that I'm also an image and personal branding specialist. So that's the reason why I'm conscious about how I show up, because I know it affects the perception people have about me. And I know what God says about me. So I want to reflect that in everything I do, especially in the way I dress.
Amazing. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. When we think about you, what should come to our minds? Like when we just wake up, we're just thinking about you. What is that? What should come to our minds? When we
The
think
first
about you?
thing, an igniter.
Ooh. Wow.
Everything about me is fire. As in,
I'm already feeling the fire again.
yeah. So I don't do calm. And the minute I was able to accept that, because I've tried, many people say, oh, you're too much of this, you're too much of that. I tried to simmer things down. I tried to be a bit more cool and stuff. But then I realized that this is the way God wants me to be. And as an igniter, if your fire level is not burning hot enough, how can you light up other people? So that's the reason why when people come across me, I want them to feel the fire that engulfs them in such a way that makes them burn with passion for their own self.
Amazing, because I'm burning already. I'm already burning.
Anything that is cold or lukewarm in your body, once I come into the space, I just bring that energy. So that's one word that I would always want people to have in the back of their mind when they meet me, when they're around me, that I can't just be dull when I'm around this woman.
Wow.
Something about me comes back to life. Something about me is energized. Something about me is impacted for good. I just feel more positive, and I just want to go out there and do something and be something. So
amazing, man. Thank you. You said something just now. You said you didn't always start like this. So what's your story? Like, what ignited, you called yourself an igniter, right?
Yes.
So what was that thing for you that made you to get to this point that you just said, you know what, this is me? Like, what was that trigger? What was that? What's your story?
To be honest, I think if I look back to even when I was young, I've always been a very vibrant, energetic person. I was actually someone that played a lot of sports, and I was also someone that sang and danced. So anything to do with being on stage, activity, so drama, the whole works, name it, I did it all. And I've always also found myself to be the one that always encouraged other people. I was very friendly, but I've discovered that sometimes along the journey as you're growing, parents tend to have an idea of who they think you should be and want to steer you along that direction. So even though my passion when I was younger was sports, arts, drama, anything that put me on the stage and allowed me to use my voice to express myself, because I was also very, very good academically, they felt like, toward the academic line, so I studied business, finance, and economics in the United Kingdom, and it didn't even take me up to a year for me to know that an office desk job is not me. Bearing in mind, at that point in time, I was still a Muslim. So I didn't even become a Christian until I was 20 when I'd graduated university, and I was still living in the United Kingdom. So when I became a Christian and started learning about things like purpose, destiny, reading the story of Joseph and all those things, something inside me started to stir up to say that, okay, you know what? All this passion, all these gifts that you've had since you were a child, that you've allowed to become very, very recessive because of the fact that you wasn't encouraged, maybe it's time for me to start to pick it up. So that's when I ventured into the world of beauty because, oh my God, ever since I was a young girl, I was always the one that just knew how to pick colors, put them together. I used to do the makeup for all my friends in university, the makeup for my sisters. And I just found out that I was intrigued by the world of makeup and beauty. So I went to work for Estee Lauder. And then from there, I moved to Lancome, I moved to Iman Cosmetics. I worked for all those companies. And then when I moved back to Nigeria and I was working for Glow Mobile, I did very well there as a customer service manager, but once I got married and moved to Abuja, I had to resign. I knew that, okay, what am I going to do? I said, fine, I'll just start my own business because I'd already given myself a target that when I turned 30, I was going to resign. But I was 26 plus at the time when I got married. So I said, it doesn't matter, 3 years extra to learn and then fail forward. So I decided to start that journey. And in the course of doing that, I started to discover myself a lot more. And many things happened to me on that journey as well, because in the space of getting married in 2005, I went through domestic violence and I was running a business and I was a new mother. So I ended up having 2 children, going through domestic violence, being told not to talk about it because I was a church leader and I was suffering depression. But yet, this is the same person that was suffering depression, but also trying to make other people happy. So I would go into my shop and people would come and I would make up their faces. I would, sometimes I also had a spa. So I was sometimes the ones also running the massage section. And I was encouraging other women. And I just couldn't figure out for the life of me why every single time I touch a woman and stuff, they'll burst into tears. Oh, I'm fed up. I'm tired. So there were pointers on my journey to show that there is something about my life that is going to be like a safe haven, a place of comfort for other women to be able to rediscover themselves and find themselves and then start to live the life that God intended for them. So I tell people that I went through 10 years of domestic violence, and for me, it was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me because prior to then, trust me, my life was golden. Everything was like, things came to me easily. I never struggled, I never suffered. And then to go through that was like the most humiliating as well as the most humbling experience, because my perception about it now is different from the perception I had about it in the past. In the past, it was a place of humiliation. Now it's a place where I learned about humility. Because I'm not ashamed to say it, maybe then I was probably a bit arrogant. And also I was not someone that was very empathetic because I'd never suffered before. I didn't know what it was like to struggle. I didn't understand people's pain. So if you came to me and said, oh, Madam Merola, I'm going through this and that, I'll probably look at it that you are probably the problem. But now I don't see things that way anymore. Because going through that journey of 10 years of domestic violence, I've learned to empathize with people more. I've learned to be able to see things beyond what my physical eyes can see. And I've also learned to be able to just shower people with love unconditionally, regardless of whatever their story might be, because we don't always know the full truth. And the woman that is smiling at you might be broken and desperate inside. So I've learned to be able to embrace people and just build them up. That's why I said I want to be known as an igniter, because I want to show you the positive side of you. I want to show you the beauty in you. I want to show you that you are more than enough. You are worth it. You are God's masterpiece. So that's the reason why I am who I am, and I do what I do, because that's what God intended for me.
Wow. Wow. I feel like clapping for you right now. Oh my god, like I'm just blown away just listening to you. Like with the boldness you had to talk about domestic violence just now. Like I'm like, wow, that really hit me. Like so many women would not even mention it. They always want to talk about how things were rosy. You say, oh, I was married. It's a good thing you're married 25 years. It's a good thing you're married 35 years,
Absolutely.
37 years, and celebrating your wedding anniversary and all of that. But tell us your story. Because we have a lot of young ladies in marriages going through hell and they're looking at the older women for advice,
Absolutely.
for comfort, and then they'll tell them, don't worry, it's okay. Tell us your story. How did you go through it? We want to learn. As a young lady experiencing domestic violence, they'll have this mindset of, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing to him? They're constantly working on eggshells. And then I remember a story of a friend was telling me that her husband would just come into the room, lock the door. She doesn't know what she did, what she said. And next thing, he's beating her. Before she can even talk, before she can even start raising her voice. So she has started noticing his pattern. Somehow she finds the way she runs out of the room and starts to call her neighbors because he really beats her well and injures her. And then when she went to talk to his mom, even pastors in church, everybody's saying, maybe you are the issue, check yourself. And she goes back in confusion. What's going on? How am I the problem? And they say, okay, maybe you're not listening to the man. Listen to him. Maybe you are not doing something right. So there's a lot of all of that. So when you mention this, I'm like, this is really encouraging. We need to have more of you, really, because I also watched a video online, and then this was a fellow man that was talking, saying people talk about marrying the wrong husband. That no, you didn't marry the wrong person. And I'm like, okay, what does this man mean by that? I said, even the person you got married to, there are different stages of the person that maybe he doesn't even know his own stage. So people have a lot of ideas, controversies. Oh, you didn't marry the wrong person. So what happened to the man that he changed? Because before marriage, I was even asking her, I'm like, before marriage, was he doing this? She says no. And I'm like, okay, so what happened? So that's another confusion for the ladies to start thinking that maybe she's even wrong and she did something. So what would you say? What would you say to a lady listening to this that's going through domestic violence and she's like, maybe I'm the issue, and she's just confused, and then she has pastors, church telling her, stay in the marriage, there's nothing you can do. Parents are telling her, you calm down, submit, and she's like, is it until I put blood in the cup and serve him, he knows I'm submitting? What kind of submission? I guess, what would you say to a lady that's going through that?
The first thing I want to say is, darling, trust me, it's not your fault and you don't deserve it. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Why? Because we need to, first of all, put that narrative out there that domestic violence is not acceptable. Even if the woman is a witch, domestic violence should never be tolerated, should never be encouraged. Because not only the woman suffers, but the man is also going to suffer the consequences in the long run. And if they have children, there are children that are going to be scarred and, save for the grace of God, are also probably going to find themselves repeating the pattern, whereby either they become the victims again or the abusers. So in my own case, I did nothing wrong as well, but I went through this. And let me just put the caveat out there. I'm still married to the same man. So there is no black and white. There is no cut and dry to say that, oh, if you're married to someone who is abusing you physically and stuff like that, the only thing you can do is leave.
Okay.
Some would end up in separation that will end up leading to divorce. Some will end in separation for a season where the person gets themselves right. And let me also say that domestic violence works both ways. I know men that are being victimized by their wives, that is the wives that actually hit them. So let's also correct that narrative that domestic violence works both ways. There are some men that they just don't tell you. Their wives hit them and they don't hit their wives back.
Wow.
And that's also a trauma for the man. So whoever is going through domestic violence, first of all, we need to recognize that there is a psychomatic break that happens because it's a trauma. And the minute people don't recognize that and keep trying to tell the other person, hey, maybe something you did wrong, the person is bottling up all these negative emotions, all this pain, and there's no valve of release for it. Trust me, that person is going to sink into depression. That person could actually turn mad, or God forbid, if that person doesn't even have Christ in them or a strong spiritual base, they could end up causing harm. That's why you hear stories of a woman suddenly attacking a man, stabbing him 100 times, doing some crazy things, running them over. It didn't happen immediately. It was a constant barrage of that person bottling up their emotion, of running negative thoughts patterns over and over again, listening to negative suggestions, watching movies that showed how some other person got their payback, and then one day that person will snap and do something in the space of a few minutes that they might live to regret for a long time. So when you hear all these horrific stories about some women that have done some really, really crazy stuff, trust me, it's because they had been bottling things up. They had been hearing people tell them, don't worry. Yeah. There's this phrase that they say, I'm a Yoruba woman. And I cannot forget, because every time they said it, it irritated the living daylights out of me. They'll say, foriti, which is just keep persevering. And I'm like, hang on. I'm a worded Christian. This is not what the Bible said. This is definitely not the life that Jesus Christ came to give me. He said that I might have life and have it more abundant. How can domestic violence, how can suppression of who I am, how can me living in fear and bondage be an abundant life? And people are okay with that just because we want to safeguard the institution of marriage? And I say that no. The life of an individual is way much more valuable than all these extra things that we're trying to celebrate and to make seem more important. Because it is better for you to go to heaven as a single woman or as a divorced woman or divorced man than for you to go to hellfire as a married woman who is just constantly full of hatred, bitterness, and also thinking impure thoughts of how to just destroy somebody's life because of what they've done to you. And that's what happens. I went through years of unforgiveness. I really, really struggled to forgive my husband. But when God said, let it go, and I did, it changed my life.
Amazing.
It changed my life. In fact, it changed my life to the point that if you had seen me physically, I'd put on so much weight because I literally was eating my feelings. And the minute I said, God, I will let it go. Vicky, I tell you no lie. I did not go to the gym. I did not go on a diet. The weight dropped off by itself. And I've been able to maintain the same weight for the past 5 years just because I obeyed the instruction of let it go.
Wow, that's really amazing.
So the first thing I want to tell anybody that's going through domestic violence, please, I beg of you, don't keep it to yourself. Okay. That is the fastest way to sink into depression. When you bottle it up and you keep it to yourself, you are definitely on a route that will destroy your spirit, it will destroy your soul, and it will destroy you in the long run. Tell somebody. Tell anybody, I don't care. Even if they don't listen to you or understand you, say it out and then seek a counselor. It's very important that you get therapy about it. Because you'll be able to say what you need to say. So I'm using this medium to say, if you're going through domestic violence and you don't have anyone to talk to, come and talk to me. Amazing. Just Google Madame Merola. You will find all my numbers are there, my social media handles are there. I will talk to you. I went through it for 10 years. And as you can see, I am complete and I'm whole and I'm living a victorious life. So you can also come out of that mess and live a better life and a life that is fulfilled and on purpose. Just if you can just get that courage to share your pain and say, help me. It takes courage to be vulnerable, to say, I need help. Wow. This is what I'm going through.
It does.
It's a place of strength for you to be able to tell somebody that this is what I am struggling with right now.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, man. I'm blown away. Seriously. Thank you for being open to talk about this. I have a question, man. The question is, for that 10 years, right? The domestic violence was happening. What made it stop? Right? Because you said it was for only 10 years. So what made it stop, and what made him, did he change, or family, church, or what happened? What made it stop?
I got to the point whereby I said, enough is enough. So you have to take ownership of a situation that you're in. Anything you tolerate remains. So I realized that I was tolerating it by staying in that marriage and not speaking out about it and standing my ground. So I left. I left for a season. I left with my children, and I reported him to the police. I reported him to social services. I took every drastic measure that you can possibly think about. And then, as I said, I also spoke out publicly. Very important. Because many people will not really understand what you're going through. And I remember the first time someone heard, they said, how can someone like you be going through domestic violence and you're still looking fine like this? And I said, okay, so how are people that go through domestic violence supposed to look? So meaning there's already a narrative out there that if you're going through domestic violence, you have to be someone that's looking wretched, looking terrible, looking unkept, you must be quiet and all those. And I was like, hell no. I was still functioning, even though I was not fully in my best state of mind. I went through depression, I went through suicidal moments and everything. But my anchor was the fact that I could hear God. So every time, even the day I wanted to commit suicide and leave my 2 children behind, God sent 2 women to my house to stop me from committing suicide. And that was my day of redemption for me, to say that my life matters. That if I kill myself, because I felt trapped. Here I was with the weight of the world's expectation, the successful woman that comes from this noble home, and also a church leader. How are you going to tell everybody that you're going through domestic violence and you want to leave your husband and all those kind of things? Family is telling you stay, church is telling you stay, and you are suffering and dying inside.
My God.
So that day I proposed to kill myself, and God sent these 2 women to my house. And when they shared their own story with me, both of them had also gone through domestic violence. I didn't know. They were both in my church. One of them had left her husband for good, and the other one, the husband had changed. God showed me 2 different sides of the coin. That these are 2 women that he loves dearly. One, he said, walk away and don't look back. And the other one, he said, stay in there till the man changed. And the domestic violence ended. I didn't know which end mine was going to be until when God said, I will work it out for your good.
Oh, wow.
And today, it's humbling for me to realize that I had to go through those years of pain, suffering, for the redemption of the soul of my husband. So I got a little glimpse of what it's like to be Christ-like, because Christ died for each and every one of us so that we might be redeemed back to our Father. But some of us are not willing to pay the price sometimes to be able to win a soul for Christ.
Wow, that's Oh, that's deep. Wow.
That's why I told you that I used to have a narrative of it being a humiliating experience, but now I'm humbled by it that I had to sacrifice some things in my life for the sake of one person's soul. Because I can tell you this, and my husband would tell you the same thing. His life would not have been the same if my children and I were not with him.
Wow.
The man he is today would not exist if I'd left him to go on his own path. Sometimes we always believe that because the man is the head of the home, we also think that spiritually they have to be the stronger one. I had to stand in the gap spiritually for his own sake so that the devil will not make mincemeat of him. He probably won't be alive today.
Oh my God, I can feel goosebumps all over my body. Woo! Wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep, really.
So my children are enjoying their father now because of the sacrifice that I had to pay, of enduring the pain for a purpose of God's greater glory to be manifested in somebody else's life.
Wow.
So we don't know the full picture of things. When I went through it, trust me, if you told me this, I would have slapped you. Because I said, am I a sacrificial goat? That even Isaac, God, they replaced it now with the ram. So why, God, why me? But God will say, why not you? If you say that, Lord, I'm here for you to use me, I want to serve you, then why not you? Why can I not use you as a sacrificial lamb for someone else's salvation to be complete? For my glory to be manifested.
Wow. You know, I'm just thinking of everything you've said now. And I'm just trying to imagine what you went through. As in, from being a Muslim, converted to Christian, and then having to go through this, and you still stayed with God. Some people will have said, you know what? If this is how Christianity is.
No, I questioned God.
Woo.
I questioned God. Like, God, what is my offense? Why? Why? This is not my agreement with you, because I'm one of those people that I'm so meticulous. You know, I've already written down, this is what I want to do. So I say, God, this is not how it works. And that's why I say, that's why when they make that joke that man plans, God laughs, you know. I had a different plan for my life, but God was just taking me through the valley so that I could come out on the other side like a desert rose that bloomed in a place where there was nothing favorable that is supposed to make a desert rose. It doesn't make sense. How can a rose bloom in a desert where there's no water, where the ground is not tillable? There is no fertile ground there.
Soil,
so when people tell you that you can only blossom when you have all the factors and parameters in place, I tell you, that is if God is absent in your life. If God is present, even if it is the worst place on earth, you can still blossom. You can still flourish. You can still thrive.
Amazing.
You can come out like a desert rose. And that's what my life represents. That despite the fact that I was in an environment that was as unenabling as you can be, very, very disempowering, soul crushing, I still flourished.
And your mental health?
My mental health, I told you, was going awry until God helped me to start to find the right space and the right medium to be able to release. And that's why I'm telling people now that don't go through all that as long as I did, because if we embrace therapy in this part of the world like they do in the Western part, many people will not have to go through all that psychomatic trauma for a long period of time. But we look down on people. If you say, oh, I'm seeing a psychiatrist or I'm seeing a therapist, say, are you crazy or something? You know, people already have this. So the stigma behind people visiting therapists and stuff needs to be broken.
It does. I totally agree with you. You know, one thing I've come to learn is that we've learned to cope with the trauma.
Yes.
Yes,
There
we've
are
learned to live
many
with it.
people in this part of the world are what I call the walking wounded. And they grow up into adults that have all this unresolved trauma and issues. And it manifests when they become husbands or wives or parents because they don't know better.
Yeah.
So they repeat the same cycle. But if they'd gone for therapy, they would have been able to heal their inner child. They would have been able to sort out the trauma and learn how to be better. So it's not about coping. It's about identifying that there is a problem and then solving the problem so that you can move away from it. Many people have just been coping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many people have it hidden. So they put a garment over it and cover it up, but it's there. So at any little trigger, there's an
comes
ugly head
out.
again.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because I've seen, if I myself have my own experience. So as you're talking, I'm just playing a lot of things in my mind as to when people told me I was the issue, I was the problem. And you know, for a lot of years I had to sit down, and God started showing me too that, you know what, you know, there was a lot of unresolved issues.
Absolutely.
And there were triggers.
A lot. And you start to observe it, that if somebody spoke to you in a particular way, it triggers that same thing in you. I had to deal with many things, down to even the point of having to rewire and reconstruct my mind, because you can imagine for a woman to now have to sleep with the same man that has violated you physically. It's a challenge.
Oh my God.
And these are things that people are not willing to talk about.
Oh my God.
They'll just be telling you, you cannot deny your husband. Excuse me. I have a mental picture in my head every time I see his face that reminds me of the horrible things he did to me. So it cannot allow me to want to have sex with him or make love to him. So I have to deal with that.
Wow.
I have to relearn how to be intimate with somebody that was once an abuser.
Oh my God. That's a lot.
And if you don't talk about it, the other person will be, she's denying me. And then a leader or a pastor will not be talking off point and be telling you that you are doing something wrong. You're supposed to, without understanding the fact that there is still trauma that needs to be dealt with. That this guy needs to go through a whole series of rebuilding and re-establishing trust.
Yes, trust and the connection.
And connection again.
Yes.
Forget the fact that you have been married for a long period of time. You just look at it as you are starting all over again. Because that woman needs to relearn how to be comfortable with you intimately again.
Because you've scarred her.
Absolutely.
You've injured her.
Absolutely. These are deep things that people will not talk about openly. But they're the realities of what we face in life that must be dealt with.
Yeah, especially this part of the world. A lot of women are going through this, and wow, thank you so much, Ma, for opening up, you know.
So when they just tell people forgiveness is one issue, resolving trauma is another issue. It's not that you've not forgiven them. Yeah. It's just that you are still struggling with some part of the trauma.
Yeah, because the same body the person wants to touch and
it's the same one you hit and punched and kicked.
And you don't even know if the next minute there's a trigger, and after that you're vulnerable at that point in time with the person. So you're not even sure if you're safe.
That is the thing. Safety, it's trust. It all boils down to trust.
Oh my God. And
intimacy with someone is about trust.
Yes.
Because you want to be vulnerable, naked and not ashamed with this person. But for me to be that with you, I need to trust you.
Yeah. And these are things that are, forgive me, man, these are things that are not taught in church.
Because maybe they don't have forums for people that have actually gone through it and have come out on the other side healed and whole, sharing their story and being the one that actually counsels people. I say it, and I say this with all respect, it is very, very difficult for me to receive advice from a woman that didn't understand what it meant like to be domestically violated. Now trying to tell me that, it's okay. And then they rationalize it and mention some other things that and I'm like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So I went through a series of years whereby I really was disgusted with the kind of advice I was getting, because most of them didn't know my pain. Well, God bless my grandmother. She's late now. She understood because she went through it. And she used to tell me that nobody deserves to go through that. And she said, I left her former husband for that same reason as well, because she was like, hey, it's too much.
Yeah.
So she was like my salvation at that point in time, because I felt like if I talked to her, she understood. And she was not going to be telling me nonsense about, just keep managing. It's okay. No, she'll say it's not okay. I can imagine how bad you feel. I can imagine the thoughts going through your head and stuff. For people to just make light of what people are going through, and you give general counsel and advice, is the worst thing you can do for someone who's traumatized.
Yes, because the person comes to meet you and is hoping, okay, let me get some form of solution from you.
And all they're just telling you is, maybe you should talk less at the house. Maybe you should do this.
Maybe you should
and
stop
I'm like,
talking back.
excuse
Stop talking
me.
back at him. Maybe you women, you have to lower your voice. Maybe the way you're and you're like.
For me, I get really mad when I hear people say things like that. Seriously. I get really mad. So I look at it in the context of so many things like rape. I cannot really identify with people, but because of domestic violence is also a physical act, I have some semblance of understanding, but I would rather send you to somebody that has experienced rape and has healed from that trauma, so that that person can really tell you how they went through. Look, everyone is just looking for someone to tell me that. I just want you to tell me that, look, I'm going to be okay at the end of it. But you can't tell me I'm going to be okay when you yourself don't even know what I'm going through.
Exactly, yeah.
So I want someone that can relate with my pain.
Okay.
And is not just going to just push it aside or make a light meal of it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So the more people we have in church, and please, I say this, it's not because you're the pastor of the church that means that you're the one that needs to be the one to counsel people. Find people in your church that have dealt with trauma, have come out of it, are healed, are whole, that can be on the counseling team in your church to speak to people that are going through similar traumas now. People that are going through drug addiction will listen to somebody that suffered from drug addiction before and has come out of it and has been living clean for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. People that are suffering from alcoholism will listen to someone who's gone through it. People who've gone through rape will listen to someone who's gone through it and is living a thriving life now. People who've been domestically abused will listen to me, because I am the poster child of the fact that your life can still be beautiful.
Amazing. Yes, ma'am.
So it's easier for me to get across to such people than you that you don't even understand. Your husband has not even slapped your head once. Talk less of even.
And then you now make light somebody else's
No, I'm so sorry. Please don't do yourself a favor and don't get yourself involved in trying to counsel such people, because you do not understand their trauma.
All right, ma'am. Okay.
Yes, the Holy Spirit can reveal things to you, but the empathy that you feel that flows, that would minister to the person that you're talking to, is on a different level when they understand. Something in my mind already calms me down when I'm saying she understands my pain.
Yeah.
I'm on a totally different level of receiving information and receiving advice from you than from somebody that I know that has never gone through anything related to what I'm going through.
Yeah. I was telling a friend of mine, I said, one of the scriptures I love in the Bible is the part when the Bible says Jesus saw the people and they were like sheep without shepherd, and he had compassion.
Absolutely.
So I began to think, I said, is it like there was a point in his life when he was here that he felt, lost, in quotes? Because how else was he able to have compassion if he didn't go through that? Because the Bible says that he was tempted in every way, but yet without sin.
That's right.
So there was a time in his life, because there's a part when he was 12 to when he came out 30. So he went through processes, right? So he went through it. So when he was ministering to people, they were able to connect with him more than the Pharisees and Sadducees. Why? Because they could tell that this person understands my pain. That was why when they wanted to stone the adulterous woman, he said, if you be without sin, cast the first stone. And, they dropped the stone because they understood that, hey, this person is coming from a place. So people can actually tell when you know what they're going through. Not that you're just generalizing and saying, some people say...
It rings differently. It rings differently.
It does.
It resonates on a deeper level.
Yeah, it does.
When someone can feel... That's why I said... Without you saying much, I already will feel some sense of relief that, okay, I'm not alone. This woman gets it.
Yeah. And that's why I feel that the church has not really been able to reach so many people. Forgive me for saying this. Is because they keep bringing people who have not gone through it. And somebody that comes for counsel to someone who hasn't gone through it, the person now leaves that place bottling up, in fact, closing the door, and you can't reach the person. You're saying this person doesn't come to church again. And the person goes more offended.
Of course.
Leaving the place more offended because they came to meet you for hope, to share their pain, and then you now make the person even feel guilty, like maybe you are the problem.
They were telling you, hey, if you had value, your husband would not have done. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Wow,
Sometimes it's because your value is too much. It intimidated the man. That's the reason why he beat you in the first place.
Come on. Yeah, that's another point too.
Many men are suffering from low self-esteem. So when they're married to a woman that is way more confident, way more successful than them, it eats away at them. Why? Because no one dealt with that trauma of that person having low self-confidence issue in the first place. So he has become an adult and has covered it up for someone, but in his internal space, that is his home in his marriage, the light now comes out to
and
show.
It's triggering.
He's showing that this person is better than me, and then
it triggers the trauma. That's where the triggers come from.
And then he feels like the only way he's more superior is through physical strength, and then results to physical abuse.
Because he feels,
so it's not because the woman,
her.
It's simply a case like, if she can beat me in every way, I'm going to be able to beat her in this way.
And take her
So it's a sense of win and loss. So many times I look at it as the foundational training for some men that makes them feel insecure when they're around women that are way more accomplished, way more successful, way more acceptable to society, and people celebrate them more. For some men, it doesn't sit well with them.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
So, as I always say, it triggers their inner demons.
Yeah, it does. I went through that too. And God took me years of understanding that I was not the problem. Even though I was young,
That's why I started off by saying that the first thing to say to such a woman is that you do not deserve it and you're not the problem.
And God took me years of understanding that he had a lot of traumas that he didn't deal with. So I was only just triggering. Because I know he will always tell me, you remind me of my mom. You remind me of this. You remind me of that. I don't want to be in your space. And I used to wonder, what did I do wrong? I'll look at myself in the mirror. He'll say, oh, your very existence annoys me. I'm like, my very existence annoys you.
Yes.
What? So I shouldn't exist. Just to me.
I had many days. Devil carry microphone. See you. I don't even know what people see you. You're so this, you're so that, just insulting me from left and right. That if I did not have a high level of self-confidence, trust me, sometimes I'll have been like, is it me that this guy is talking
mine
to?
was crushed actually.
Well, is it me that this? So for me, I told you that there was a level of arrogance. So my level of confidence was very, very high. So the domestic violence only brought it down to a normal level. He didn't take it down to the lowest level, but he just brought it down. So after I've renewed myself with the word of God and with God's words to me, my confidence level has gone up. So I tell people now that I don't walk in self-confidence, only I work in Godfidence, because now I walk with the assurance and with the mindset of who God says I am. And what God says is paramount, is the most important thing.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I don't care what anybody else has to
Amazing.
say.
Amazing.
If God tells me that I am pleased with you, my child, then everybody else, I'm sorry. Your opinion is second
Wow.
to me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, ma'am, I want to ask you this, right? When you separated from your husband, what made you come back? Because you said God showed you two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
There was one that she never returned back to her husband, and there was one that God changed him, right? So to a woman that is watching this podcast, that is in this right now and is trying to make a decision, and say, you know what, separation is the way now, and separation usually does not necessarily lead to divorce.
Absolutely.
But for you, for me, I this is my opinion. I feel maybe if the man is willing to change or to work it out, but there are some men who are not. So, and then the women just go back like that, and then there's now a part 2 of that. So
there will be part 2, part 3, part 4,
Yeah.
because you keep leaving. I went through that.
Okay.
I would leave, I'll come back, and there was no change.
Okay.
So if you look at the pattern with people that are the abusers, they would be sober for a season.
So how do you know when he has changed? When do you go back?
And that was why I said that if you do not take steps for the trauma, and also for that person to go and get counseling to deal with their inner demons, they will keep coming back. So stay separated for as long as it takes for that person to deal and work on their inner demons. If they are not willing, don't go back.
Never again.
Don't go back, because you're just stepping back into the same mess again that has been covered up, and it will open up his ugly head again.
And it might
So
be
he had
worse.
to go for counseling. In the past, we used to go together. For me and my children to come back this time, he went by himself. And he had to complete the series of counseling.
Wow.
So I didn't go back until I got notification from his counselor that they've dealt with the issue.
Wow.
So I got to know what triggered him, what was making him behave that way. Every time we would go for a session, they would call me and tell me the things that transpired. So that's why I said that, I'm sorry, professional counseling is the only way. So the first step, if the person is not willing to go through counseling, don't even bother yourself.
Yeah, because I have a lot of men who pride to say, I
Don't bother
need
yourself,
the
because you are
counseling.
just you're setting yourself up for another repeat.
And that's so painful. And this is where some men don't want to admit that this is what breaks a lot of marriages.
Of course.
It's not that the woman just left because she wanted to leave. She cannot keep her home. Do you want the woman to go back and die? There are some women that will go
That's
back.
a very flippant statement to make, because did she marry you without counting the cost in the first place?
Exactly.
It's harder to leave a marriage than to get into a marriage.
Yes. Very true. So
It's even 100 times harder when you now even have children involved.
Yeah.
For a woman to get to that point to say, I am not doing again, I am leaving. Trust me, it's not a decision that person made lightly.
Yeah, it took a lot.
And it stems from the fact that the people don't embrace counseling. And that's why I say that I'm a Christian and I'm a Christian leader, but I don't always feel like church counseling is the absolute option to take when it comes to things like this. It's better for you to go to a professional, because they're unbiased. They'll just tell you what it is what it is.
Yeah.
Why do you hit her? She said, why does what she say trigger you to the point that, is she the first person to say that to you? Why didn't you hit all the other people that have done that? I've said that to you too as well.
Wow. Wow, that's a good one. That's a good one.
They will get down to the root cause of why the person is behaving the way they do. But in church, sometimes, even in the mosque, they find reasons to be blasé about some certain things because we have some entitlement culture here for men
Yeah.
that is affecting the way they think and the way they act. So that's why I said professionals. So that's why you see people from the Western part and the people from here have different mindsets. They know that it's an offense. You get jailed and fined for it. Here, when you do it and you get away with it, what's going to happen? I'll do it again. Because no one's going to hold me to
nobody's
account.
going to hold you. Yeah,
And that's the
true.
reason why laws have been changed. Like in Lagos State, you ain't going to get away with it.
Yeah.
So it now needs to become a federal law.
Yeah, it has to be. Because a lot of men too need to take responsibility of their childhood traumas.
Yeah.
It's not the
So
woman's fault.
the
in
minute
most
the man knows that,
cases.
okay, I'm in the mood and I punch you or I hit you, no problem, but I'm also should be ready to carry my slippers and go and sleep in the cell.
Yeah, they'll set up.
Once I know that there's going to be an official record put that this man has history of domestic violence and it's there in your record that can affect you later when you now want to run for some political post or whatever in the future, they will think about it twice.
Yeah, that's true.
When they want to promote you as MD and they're like, I go and check, this person.
It's a wife beater.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you cannot be an example in your home, how can you be an example in society?
When all these things, they can see that it's going to become a stumbling block for me later. They will not do it.
They won't do it. And I really
Worst case is they will do it once and they will repent and not do it again. Once they have been dealt with that first time,
Yes.
they will not try it again.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much. I myself have really been blessed by your testimony and the fact that you are still married to the same person and then still being intimate with this person, and forgiveness. Forgiveness takes a lot. It takes
It's
a
a
lot.
journey.
It's a really
It's
a journey.
It can't be rushed. And that's one thing I want to tell people. Nobody should put a timeline for you as to when you outgrow your trauma or you forget. Not, you can't forget what has happened to you, but you let go and move on from your pain. There is no timeline for anyone that is the same. I can get over mine within 2 months and yours might take you a year. It's better for you to take your time and heal properly than for you to rush it because some people are trying to tell you, why are you still wallowing in it? They're not you. What that person needs right now is just support and love, not someone trying to push them to be in a place they're not ready for yet.
Okay.
Because once you are able to fully heal and be made whole, you are able to embrace other things in life again. You're not afraid to love again. You're not afraid to get intimate again. You're not afraid to be yourself and be vulnerable again. Because that's what everything we're talking about is an act of vulnerability.
Yes, ma'am.
To know that opening yourself up to other people means that they have the ability to hurt you.
Yeah.
And the reason why many of us would want to shut ourselves out is say that, oh, you don't know what I've gone through in the past. Yeah, we might not know, but the bottom line is it worth you living a half life for?
Wow, that's amazing, ma. Thank you so much. So finally, I want you to just look at the camera and just talk to a lady that's going through this right now, because there are thousands, I dare say millions of women going through this. And you know, when you live in a society and tradition, it's another thing. Oh, in our tradition, women don't talk about this. You know, so I don't want you to look at the camera, you know, as we round up this podcast and just talk to a lady going through this and just encourage her.
Dear sister, first of all, let me hug you and let you know that you are loved. You are a precious being, God's masterpiece. And I empathize with you for whatever you're going through right now that makes you feel worthless, makes you feel devalued, and makes you feel like your life is not worth living. The woman speaking to you right now is a woman that went through The same thing, maybe on a lesser level, maybe on a higher level, I don't know. But I've also gone through my own share of domestic violence. And not just domestic violence, I also want you to know that if you've been abused in any way, whether it's verbal abuse, whether it's emotional abuse, whether it's mental abuse, you don't deserve it. And I mean this, you don't deserve it, because your life matters. Your mental state matters. Your peace matters. Your joy matters. Sister, you're not alone. Please don't give up on yourself. Don't get to that point whereby you become so depressed you want to take your life. Speak to somebody you can trust. Reach out to me. I will be your sister in arms that would help you, that will pray with you and shower you with love till you get the help you need and be able to move past the trauma into a place of being made whole again. I wish you the very best, and I know that God's purpose for your life will still be established as long as you take the courage to get the help you need. Stay blessed and know that you matter.
All right. Thank you so much, Ma, for being on this podcast session with us. I personally I've learned so much as a woman. Thank you. And now I understand why they call you the igniter, because I have been ignited. Like, everything is just, I'm just on fire right now. So
thank you so much for
Ma.
inviting me to this session. House of Utterance, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to coming back again and again.
All right, so thank you. So God bless you guys, and thank you for watching. And I hope you've learned so much, about domestic violence, and I hope you now know that you're not the problem. And if you need to get help, please reach out to Madam Merola. She's on social media, and you can Google her as well. Please don't stay there. Don't be silent. Domestic violence is not accepted in whatever form. So God bless you, and thank you for watching.